My guest today is the powerhouse Heidi Hartwig. Fun conversation about her brand and movement, Friends from New York, trying to create community wherever she goes. We also talk about whether or not, as Gen Xers, her and I grew up in a better time than our kids. Maybe you do.
I don't have a coffee place.
I'm going to get some Friends from New York events.
I know, seriously. You have so many things going on. I really didn't know that your space was so
it's funny that you
grand.
That you didn't come in last time. Well,
I know. I don't know what I just met you on the street and
we were
just
introduced.
Started talking.
Yeah.
Yes.
We met for a purpose.
Sure. Yeah, we met.
In the sense of,
a friend thought we should meet.
Correct.
That's what friends do. And whatever my friends say, I do. So I kind of,
That's right. Yep, it's a little closer.
Which is great.
You can put that wherever. I'm going to move this a little closer.
Okay, cool.
We good?
And does it matter where I put my coffee?
No. Wherever you like. Okay. Wherever you're comfortable.
Okay.
Now, do you know that this actually used to be the original coffee shop?
Right. And so you've grown in size.
You've grown and turned into this and that. I'm talking about community. One of the things I was worried about, because this place had such a good vibe. It was so organic. It just opened up, no rules. It just worked, and the community embraced it. Obviously, now we're moving to bigger space. Yeah. You plan a little more.
Of course.
And I was hoping we'd still get the same vibe and community, and it has.
It seems like,
So we got lucky.
It's amazing how it's like the coffee shop became the sort of hub for humanity.
Yeah. Well, especially in the States.
Well, I guess, yeah. I guess actually that's worldwide. You think about... Actually, I think here everything's so fast and you got to keep moving and take your money and go, this looks like you're cultivating, sit down and stay.
Exactly.
Like I saw someone drawing and that's
really
nice.
Manny, that's our local artist,
That's really cool because I think cafe culture, the culture of sitting and talking with a friend is really shunned here as you're not doing. So you're not making a buck, and so I think that's weird. Whereas I just had, the privilege of getting to go to Morocco recently and seeing, and I've traveled through the Middle East. And I think it's everywhere but America. Yeah. This notion of hey, let's go sit at the cafe and talk for a few hours and hang out. And there's no purpose. There's no agenda. There's no pitch. There's no sell. There's no something that has to then come to fruition that I met with you for this time. So this means something.
It resulted in this,
we have a plan and we're making, a $20 million building next door. There's just we're going to get together and we're going to talk over coffee.
It's nourishment of being together.
Yeah, exactly. And that's so innately a part of man, just this idea of we should get together and talk. Yeah. Let's talk, And I was in the airport recently and there were 3 older gentlemen sitting at the airport seats. And they were sitting up like this, and you could see their hands moving, and they were all just talking, and it was like this, But they were sitting next to each other, so they weren't facing each other like us. And then I saw 3 young people, and they were like this, and they were in their phone, and they were sitting next to each other together on this, whatever their trip was, right? We're at the airport, and it was so fascinating to see the baby boomers over there in the seat of 3, and they're, what is it called? Gesticulating? What's it called when you're
gesticulating?
Yeah, when you're sort of animated and moving around, and we're talking, and I'm looking at you, and we're connecting because of all this humanness we do as when we talk, And then it was just and then the future is no, just go back in your little world of your hand that you feel very safe and comfortable, and you're with two friends, but they're comfortable sitting this way in their world. And so that contrast was so shocking, and I have so much awareness around it. And I don't know, I think as a Gen Xer, we're just at we're always been at the coolest place of the center of being able to sort of see and then self-reflect and then pivot and then sort of pluck the stuff we need, And so I love being a Gen Xer in that sense. But I think yeah, it's just so frightening to see how that's normal, and that like your upbringing and your surroundings and your society, your like colleagues and friends say do that too. Sit with me on your phone.
Well, my daughter, I mean, we struggle with that in the sense of she'll talk to her friends. Well, she said this. We've been very strict with her on social media and, trying to do what we can.
Of course.
It is a constant uphill battle.
Absolutely.
But at school, that's actually how they communicate. They'll be next to each other.
Right.
Communicating through their phone to the person.
Totally.
And I didn't believe it.
Right.
Eventually, we let her have Snapchat because that was a big way of them. And it's like it did change her social circle. And I'm like, that is just, I feel bad for you. It's not your fault.
I know.
I feel bad for you.
I mean, it's that. It's such a push and pull of like, I understand that like now there's this YouTube game, or there's this game, and I can have friends from all over the world, and we're all connected into it, and so we're talking, and so I feel close to that person because like we're doing this game together, and they're talking, and you're talking, and that's how you connect and play and be in friendship. And I played fucking video games after school with my friends. I had my Nintendo Mike Tyson's Punch Out, and like, I was trying my Duck Hunter, and like, of course, that's socializing with your friends after school. And so, it's hard to understand. And there's a balance. And then there's, I feel so blessed to have a 17-year-old, and I feel frightened for people that have younger children. And I feel frightened for humanity overall. And I think that recognizing that has a profound effect on how you feel day to day that I didn't really understand, and that it then, of course, goes back to the phone of just like this constant notification of some sort of, whether that's the tsunami's coming, something's coming, right? And so you're just always tense, and you're always on guard, and you're always freaked. And I never knew what like a panic attack was, or just that feeling. I never thought I was an anxious, anxiety-driven person.
You feel like it's made you more anxious.
And I feel that that's what it's forming me into, And so I feel bad for people trying to raise kids now that like, I was really diligent of like my kid didn't even look at a fucking device till 10, right? So like then that was 10. So she was behind or whatever. But I feel like that's not even possible now to do,
Very
and then
hard.
what does that do? Then you're ostracizing your kid, and then she or he is not down, or they're not down with what the other kids are doing. Then they are socially already, then they're not down, and then so it's like, that's so crazy,
And I find, I don't know, I find the kids are meaner today than when we were growing up. I don't know if that's true.
I mean, the kids are so many different things than we are from growing up.
I know, but they're just like,
it's just
I feel like they're meaner and like not as like you don't have the phone, you're ostracized. You don't have this,
you're not cool. You're not
ostracized.
down. You're not right.
I
There's
just remember there being more. I don't know. It was just cooler.
I know.
That's why Gen X was
true.
cool.
I know. It's so true. I just wish I definitely like, formulating like community and like, kind of growing my company and becoming who I'm becoming who I'm going after in life. I always say, I'm like, how do you start a national holiday? And how do you go about that? How does something get on the calendar? And how could we grassroots start something, you and I, of like, June 28th, it's social media lock day.
I thought there was a blackout day.
Is there? Because I've been on my Instagram where it's gone off and I can't do it.
No, the companies don't turn off.
But that's what I'm saying, where they are down for like from 6 a.m. to, a 12-hour window. We collectively have chosen April, 22nd as go fucking hang out with people.
It's actually a great PR move.
Real life,
The first social media company to do that would be a killer PR move.
Why can't we do that? Why can't we collectively have a national holiday where like, your email works and people can find you and your phone works, but nothing about checking in to see about some like or follow or DM or update or keep up, or I didn't post. Like, there's a lot of stress around, like I'm building something through social media, and in all things outside of social media, what works is consistency, right? Yeah. Like I have something, I show up, I'm consistent, so there's a reliability, and that's how you build anything, right? And so that for the pressure of being consistent with posting is so stressful. I don't feel like fucking posting today, but I have to now because I'm indebted to like that's somehow going to feed some sort of opportunity to feed my brand to get me somewhere. I don't know where.
So you feel that with your brand now?
I mean, not so much, but I feel like, there's these checkpoints of different things that I'm part of, within, certainly within social media platforms and choosing those platforms. Where does this live? Where does that live? Can we bite size it to this? Can we put it towards that? Will it feed to this? Will it go to that? And that all of those things take time, energy, and resources to put into effect, and that there's supposed to be some sort of come back from that, right? I get some customer to buy some Friends from New York fucking sticker pack,
I get bored with that. Maybe it's a Gen X thing, but when I'm like, I'm done. Like, it's too boring. Like, I don't mind making the stuff. Yeah. The creative thing is cool.
Sure, of course.
But playing that game of, like, how to feed it out.
Exactly. And so that's what I mean is, like, wouldn't it be so nice if we at least all knew so that the kids and the parents and the business people are all like, yo, social media is off April 30th, people. Right. Just for fucking 12 hours. So you can turn it on and it'll repeat looking at your shit, but there's nothing to do on it. Right. There's nothing to do. Right. And I think it would be so remarkably amazing and like, I'd be like patriotic if somehow like America could figure out, you know what, you guys need a fucking break.
Can we just pull
let's just do 1 day off, 1 day a year, 12-hour window. The scroll just doesn't get you anywhere. So just turn it off and sit in the fucking park and face each other,
so
right?
AI must have you reeling then.
AI is funny. I mean, I've always been someone not afraid of technology, innately very like intuitively. I get technology, I understand it, and I get hyped about it because I don't feel dumb. I like it. It always makes me feel like I know what I'm doing. And so I've embraced it. I totally think it's like super important and the future and, but then there's the AI is super frightening and super like, it's just coming so fast, right? We all understand, like I hang out with my Papa Bernie, who's 95 years old and has seen everything happen, everything that's come into the effect, right? Like, the Industrial Revolution this man's been a part of, and then still nothing's come as fast as this, right? And so...
that's an interesting question, though. Does he know what's happening with AI? Like, I don't know what his state is in.
Yeah, his status is his mind is sharp, but he can't, like, go on hikes anymore.
Right, but that must be fascinating.
I think so.
To see AI is almost like actually seeing the future come to fruition that people said.
Right, exactly.
That's nuts.
Which is also like what's so nuts, and to take a minute back of like, we're so remarkable humans. We fucking came up with all this shit. Like, we invented this, we thought of this, we wrote about it, we sci-fi'd it out, and it's happening.
And it's happening,
And then it's like, and then whatever that story is, that storyline we wrote is going to happen, And so that part's really scary. So I have a love-hate with the AI. And I think, like, it's going to take down a lot of jobs and then invent a lot of jobs. And then it's like this Wild West. And how do you get involved? And how do you profit? And what do you do with it? And then I also just think, like, universal income. Come on. Like, give me some fucking money. You want me spending money. You want me participating in this machine of, like, I got to go get my coffee. I want to go sit here. You want me to buy this outfit. You want to do – then, like, give me something basic and I'll do that because everything else is going to be gone. Like, there's no job for me to do. There's no family business to pass on. It can't just be like, oh, well, now my family took over, the family hardware store or the family dentist.
Family AI agent.
Anything. There's just like, there's just this stark understanding coming at us very quickly is that you're rich or you're poor. And there's that. You're rich or you're fucking poor.
Although I think AI is going to level the playing field and readjust things on that. I mean, there's kids right now who are messing with AI that, just like the computer.com generation, their garage making movies or whatever. agents. I mean, that are just going to, blow people out of the water.
I think, of course, there's always new that comes, and there's always those people that are just, at the forefront and they're pioneering shit and they're getting in there and they're figuring it out. And I think there's so much room for all of us to benefit. And I think it's going to make things efficient and easier, but certainly like a lot of jobs are going to be gone. I've read about like they don't need accountants anymore. They don't need, we're not going to need truck drivers driving 18-wheelers across the country. Like, there's going to be a lot
It'd be a huge shift.
There's going to be a huge shift, no
huge
doubt,
shift.
And so I think that what is not going to shift is that we have an economy and money needs to change hands, and that we need to be buying things.
Right,
and so
and who's making that? Who's actually producing it and manufacturing?
And how do we make money now? If so many of these jobs are like, my daughter's a filmmaker and she's a creative mind and she's excellent and getting things on a very high level, like the cinematic language, she's essentially learning the language of cinema and putting it into fruition and making things, and, it's very frightening to think, well, now we'll just have AI do that, and that like people can only digest so little of something. They're not going to watch the full hour of our talk. They're going to watch bits and pieces that you guys highlight that is maybe of interest to them and move on. And so, just the whole makeup of our mind and how it works and how much of it we use and how we digest and see things is changing so much. Like, it's no wonder, like, you can't watch a 2-hour movie anymore. And also, maybe AI will just make the movies, and no one will really care. It's, Vogue just put out the first. They just put out a first spread with an AI model. And
you saw the thing about the AI person at Wimbledon. Did you see that?
No, I didn't see that.
So there was a post of a social media influencer at Wimbledon, blonde dress, at the thing. And got like a gajillion views, comments, and it was an AI person. She was never there. It doesn't exist.
But how did we see her?
Somebody posted this picture of this influencer.
So they like put them in an image. It was like a static image.
Yeah, it was a static image of, they do. They pose with whatever. She was posing. I'm at Wimbledon. Nobody knew, and it was just an AI image. Didn't exist. She never existed.
That's really interesting and really frightening.
But you bring up a couple of extra. So one is, yes, the attention span, I think for a while has been going down the drain.
So much.
So that is definitely true. But the question of, and we could take your daughter or you're an artist. So you have these tools. It'll make some things easier. And I guess the question will be, how do you define an artist? How do you define talent? How, as an artist, do you keep your brain sharp enough to stay artistic, which will be different for you and me now and different for my kid who is going to grow up with this as a new palette to paint with, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think that like humans, like where we feel emotions, right? Everything's an emotion. And so an artist is making something and you're walking in a gallery and then you're looking at something to feel an emotion, a connection or something. And I think like maybe that's hard for AI. But at the same time, I don't know, if we're feeding it and we're prompting it and we keep feeding it, it's like, who's to say the AI doesn't have feelings or emotions too? But I think that hopefully that differentiates us, that like, my kids going out there experiencing life, experiencing, humans and, the highs and lows of like accomplishments and failure, and that then gets turned into her art to sort of express something to sort of then touch David where he's like, yo, I feel that way and I relate. And
who
that's,
cares that
like,
you use the computer to create it, but your experience informed that, or do you care? Or do, that's another question. Do you care that a computer created it? Even if you informed it.
Right. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know. I don't have the answer. I'm so torn by it, It's like in the one way I'm like, yo, cool, like make everything easier for us, AI, give us more time, government, give us some dough, and then let's all be Renaissance men. And that we're just like sitting by the lake, and I'm like strumming the violin, and I'm writing a soliloquy, and then like I'm performing, you know, and I'm the jester. I'm doing all the like Renaissance artsy stuff because there's time.
It'll never. But that's what they said about computers.
Yeah,
and nobody has more time, right? That's exactly what they said. The dishwasher, everything is give everybody more time to pursue. You know, you're reading Alan Watts, right?
Right.
To pursue their higher virtues. Nobody's got more time, and nobody's done that.
Yeah. Right. It's like
nature.
speeding up. I think there's a collective understanding that, like, even my kid, like, feels like time's moving fast. Yeah. But I never felt that way when I was young. I was like, yo, everything's so slow. I wish I was older. I wish I could do this, blah, blah, blah. And then I don't know what it is, but like maybe we're all feeling that everything's going so fast. I'm like, yo, it's the end of July. Wait, August is over. Oh my God, we're back to school. It's what? What's happening? You know, like.
Do you remember when summers used to last
so fast? Yeah. It's so fast.
Yeah. Summers used to last forever. Do you remember that?
Yeah, exactly.
Forever.
Like it felt
and now it's
long.
Like 2 weeks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're like, where are you going this summer? What are you doing? I'm like, I don't know. It's summer. It's over. It's here. I'm not. You know. And
well,
then
now the trend is now the summer. I was reading an article. And some parents are pushing back against this, but some parents are now promoting the feral summer, which is no camps, no like what they grew up as. Just go, be lazy, you know, no camps, no structure, just go, like enjoy your summer. And I think society does go through those swings to try to balance it out.
Oh my God!
I don't think it's really balanced it out really well, but I think there's something very human about. You know, even getting back to the cafes we were talking about, wanting to slow down, wanting to have the conversation.
Yes.
That I think when people get the opportunity, for whatever reason, the noise stops. They're like, oh, this is actually really what I enjoy.
Yeah.
Like I don't need more than this.
Of course.
But the cycle is so fast, nobody has time to really step off the wheel and be like,
totally. I loved summer camp. And I think summer camp now is also sort of so, you know, over the top. Like everything is about showing off. It's just so fucking sad we all have platforms. You know what I mean? It's like, why do I have to give a fuck about you and your stupid shit?
Yeah.
And so it's like we're just trying to outbeat each other and everything has to be so bloated of like how much we have or don't have.
Do you remember that when you were growing up? I was talking to my wife. I said, because I was thinking about my daughter as well.
Yeah.
I don't remember growing up being super concerned or feeling like people were judging me based on what was cool or not. I feel like, for some reason, I feel like now it's you have this or you don't. It's a very clear thing.
Yeah.
I feel like growing up, at some point I probably was, but I don't remember having the coolest sneakers being really that important or something. Or was it? Is my memory wrong? You're hipper than I am, so...
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of things there. I mean, you know, I have friends... The big thing I keep hearing over and over is friends taking their kids on play dates.
Right.
And then the kids after being like, yo, why don't we have this in our house?
Right.
I.e., why don't we live in a giant loft in Tribeca?
Yes.
Why doesn't our building have the amenities? Where's my doorman? Where's my, you know, whatever movie room? Where's our, you know? And
it's so skewed,
that's so hard. And that, like, always freaked me out. And I grew up on the Upper East Side, and I wasn't the wealth of the Upper East Side. And I went to public school, and, you know, but there was, like, a mixed bag. Like I'd hang out with some friends and their cribs would like, you know, the mom would sleep in the living room on the couch so the kid could have the bedroom, and that was cool and that was normal. Some friends had walk-ups. Sometimes I'd be on Park Ave and their place would be like palatial and rooms like sort of like corridors you didn't know of these corners and old school like Dakota apartments, and it was just a mixed bag. And there were times as I got older towards high school where I was like, yo, I don't have so much money, I can't invite people over, this is crazy, like we don't live like this.
To get self-conscious about
I was more self-conscious,
yeah.
But it took longer. But I never felt like, I don't know, like I can't hang out, or I don't know. Now it feels super stark of like, I don't know, like you have to have so much, you know, and you have to show off so much and everyone has so much, and that like, yeah, I don't know. I was always so afraid for my daughter of like, I want you to feel okay to have people over at our house. And I want you to feel okay that it's like, some of them have more. And how do you have that talk with them about what does that mean?
Right.
Why do they have more and we don't? And what is that a reflection of? And when do you talk about money with your kid? And what is that? And that like they're mad and upset and they want to live in this other doper crib and we don't have that, you know? And so that's a lot. And so I struggled with that raising Rio in the city and that feeling, but I tried really hard to not project any of that, and we kind of skated by okay. But I definitely have had a few friends now tell me that their kids are asking questions like, why don't we have, and why don't we live, and why can't we live in this building?
Great, so it's an opportunity to have a good conversation with them.
I know, it's like, so crazy.
To be grateful for what there is. This is what it is. It's not that important. Are you happy?
So many.
Did you care until you saw that? Like, it's a great opportunity, but
it is, and
you got to have the right conversation.
Exactly. About like money and like all of that stuff. Absolutely. And so like, you know, obviously I steered away from what you were saying of like, these kids have, and do I want that cool thing or whatever. Right. I think like, kids in a much younger, much quicker through being connected to their device and being slaves to like some trend that went off by some retard that made it, you know. Sorry, I said that word. You're not supposed to say that, but I'm Gen X. I can say whatever I want. Sorry, people. You know, that you're just compare and need and have to have, and somebody made some trend that you have to have these dumb things on your shoes now or something. And it's just like, it's constant. And that's really hard. And I think, we did not have that growing up.
Do you, do you feel, we didn't, right?
No.
Do you feel, although on a total side note, I remember some kids coming in with the Doc Martens and they were always like, I was like, if you have to do that to your shoes all the time to keep them clean, it's not worth it. It's too much.
I loved my Doc Martens. I actually ran into I wasn't friends with them at sleepaway camp. And you know, when you're younger, the age thing's such a big deal. So if you're older, you don't really know the kids that are younger than you. You don't care. And then when you're younger, you remember the older kids that you've met, you know, whatever. And I ran into this guy. He's like, I went to sleepaway camp with you. I know you, Heidi. You're the first person I ever saw wearing Doc Martens. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. And that was something very different, that there were pockets of, it meant something, like we were really weird and rare to be from the city going to this camp. Most of the people were from Long Island or Westchester or, you know, whatever, the Rockland County. Anyway, somewhere in New York, but not the city, right? And so we were this strange animal. I think most camps now, there's mad people from the city that go there, and a lot of people raise their kids here and such. But I think that there was definitely a differentiation in style from being someone from the city. And that you could just, that's how you are. You're from the city. You dress different.
And you could tell. And I think people were like, tell. I think people liked it.
Yeah, and that is definitely eradicated. Like, if you met some girl, or I don't know if you have a son or daughter, and you line them up with a Long Island cat, the same age, whatever, they have all the same shit. And that's
you think so? It's become more homogenized.
It's all the same, you know. Whereas, like, you know, I lived in California when I was little. I was born there, and then I was raised in Manhattan. But I was, you know, a little beach bum for my early years. And when I moved and came to Manhattan, went to public school, they were like, "Girl, what the hell are you wearing?" And they ripped me apart because I looked like some West Coast stonewashed zipper jeans, like stonewashed stuff. I just looked crazy different than a New York person. And that was because you didn't know what was going on in California in the 80s versus what was going on in New York in the 80s. There was no one talking in that way. So fashion was different. So there were styles in these places. And now we just are a worldwide style. Like, whatever the cats are wearing in Korea, I'm probably wearing too, or they know about my brand and I know their shit. And like, it's just worldwide. And so the world is smaller, and that's cool. But then there's this hard, like, there's no way to tell, like, does it matter then that you're from the city? Because, I don't know, the Long Island kids look the same and know all the same shit. You know?
Although I feel when I go someplace that's sort of out of New York or a new crowd, I always feel like I look New York.
Right.
I don't know. There's something. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just because jeans and a T-shirt. I don't know.
That's interesting.
Or the
That's
shoes,
something
I can't wear sweatpants. You're like, I will not wear sweatpants outside because that's insane. If you in New York, you put on some level of armor.
Something.
Right?
Yeah, like, or not armor, just like you're part of a city and you're... It's like this. You're cosmopolitan. You're worldly. You're cultured. You're taking from everywhere you've been. You're seeing every man on the street. And I take fucking style tips from my famous stylist friend. She takes them from homeless people. I've seen some of the coolest looking homeless cats decked out in cool looking shit, and like I'm inspired, and that's New York, that you're subconsciously not even recognizing who you're being inspired by, but there's a wave of so many people from every culture, every socioeconomic, everything, and it's coming through in what you're putting on because you're part of humanity, you know, and so that is really special, and that's something I talk about in I have a Substack, and I interview New York creatives, and it is something I ask them, like, how does being a New Yorker like translate everywhere? Like, or how do you always feel like a New Yorker? And I think, we have a lot of stereotypes against us of like people thinking we're rude or,
Not true.
And that part's so not true.
We spoke about that, right?
It's just, it's so not true. I think I think what you said, there's an armor.
Right.
There's so much coming at you that there's an actual armor to be able to battlefield through the city. Mm-hmm. But if somebody stops me for something and like they need something, I'm there. Like, I'm going to help you and we're going to figure this out. And so that's, New Yorkers are the kindest, I think. But I think there is something interesting of like, how do you always feel like a New Yorker? And I think it's just being at the epicenter of the world. Like we are just in it. And you see the good, the bad, the ugly, and the anything around any corner could possibly happen. And that's just then how you groove through life of just like, I got this. Like, wherever you're going to fucking drop me, right? It's not shocking. You can drop me anywhere, and I can, like, I get it. I know what to do. I can maneuver and figure it out. And I think that's maybe how you're always kind of a New Yorker, or how you translate. And then I think, New York is still this dream city, and it's this place that, you hear. I don't know how much of it is like that or possible even, and that's the part where what I try to champion is talking to creatives, talking to anyone that's trying to do and be creative in this town. But like this idea of like, oh my God, I had, $2,000 in my account and I got a bus ticket and I moved to New York, to sit in the cafes and write and be like, Patti Smith, or something. Right. And you're like, wow, like you did it. And now you're like this big actor on Broadway. And like, that's amazing. And so, I think New York is a dream for people, whether it's through the movies, it's for everything. It's this place to come and go. And then, like the lyric, like if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. And it's so nice they named it twice. Like, it's really incredible. Like, so I think New York is a remarkable place. And it's certainly, the greatest city in America, by far. And I think we lead the world and people look to us. But I think at the end of the day, it's sort of a dream. You dream about what you think New York is, of going in those buildings and seeing and the bridges and, just this history that's so alive, So I don't know.
I'm getting excited about New York talking to you. This is great.
I like that.
Really inspired. No, I love New York. I want to talk about friends from New York. I want to talk about your Substack. So your background, right, was in...
We have a visitor?
We have a visitor, a live visitor.
A live visitor. Is he in the wrong
doesn't know
building?
We're filming.
Yes, my
good.
background.
That's New York.
It is New York, guys. There's a messenger trying to come deliver something.
It's also, I love the studio. We're on the street.
I know.
Scene.
Exactly. That's true.
So, so your background was in fashion photography? Or?
My background is photography. Not fashion per se. I would say portraiture. I'm a portrait photographer. I'm also a filmmaker. I've made one feature film, which is still a feat in this day and age.
Absolutely.
I've directed a feature.
How long ago was that?
It premiered in Atlanta in 2017.
Okay.
So not so long ago. But there was a lot of I would do it all again, and I would love to make more movies. it's a very difficult world to kind of break into and like be a director.
Do you think, just on a side note, like, do you think about all the AI movie stuff happening? Like, do you mess with that all? Because that seems to be opening the doors for a lot of people.
It is interesting. I'm more right now nurturing my daughter, who's like in it hardcore. She like has been in this fellowship for 2.5 years, so they've just trained her to make movies. Awesome. And so I've just been trying to support her in that. I have had some friends tell me about some AI applications that I've been wanting to look at, and a friend of mine made a full short film through AI, and I find it fascinating. I don't really want to fuck with AI to make a movie. If I'm going to make a movie, again, it's like me going out there to do it. You know, I love cameras. I love, you know, movie making is another collaborative endeavor. You're doing things with a group of people that you're all came together to make this thing happen, to tell this story, and the director sort of pushing it along with everyone as, you know, you're this like captain of this ship to get, you know, it's like Fitzcarraldo, you're pushing the fucking boat up the mountain together, you know, doing this thing. And that's what filmmaking is to me. So sitting at my computer for 8 hours to prompt something to then come out so it looks really real and super expensive, explosive, doesn't get me hyped.
I love it. Okay, great.
But yeah, my background and my trade is photography and film, and my first mentor and my first boss and my first job out of college was running a female photographer studio. Her name's Roxanne Lowett, and she was an incredible photographer that came up late 70s. She was part of Warhol's crew, and she was a nightlifer, and she went out and she documented New York City nightlife, the artistic community, downtown culture, and then she also she kind of invented backstage photography, meaning backstage of fashion shows and stuff. Instead of photographing what's coming down the runway, she was in the back looking at the girls getting ready and what was happening and how they did it, and the curlers and the hair and all of that stuff. And that became, you know, what is today.
Now.
What today, right? BTS or whatever, you know, like that notion. But, you know, so she was my first boss, and she had this huge archive of people because she was going out every night to multiple events all around the city for fun and to cover it for different magazines and newspapers in the city and abroad. And so that was my crash course in like downtown sort of culture of people. Like, who are these people?
Because you were still living uptown at that point.
No. I was living, my first apartment out of college was in Williamsburg, which I went to Williamsburg kicking and screaming. I was like, what the hell is Williamsburg? No one's coming there. What's the fucking L train? I don't want to go on that. No one's going to come see me. My friend was like, you're taking this apartment. It's here.
Right.
I love Williamsburg. But no, so she was my first job out of college, and you know, having grown up in New York, I went away for a bit, came back,
and
I worked for her.
And that was your exposure to this world.
That was my exposure to just, you know, people. Who are these people that make a name for themselves in New York? You know, the Basquiats and the Herrings, and you know, just interesting cultural figures that took this city and made it theirs and did stuff. And so I learned a lot about interesting figures, you know, Tina Chow and, you know, going out, nightlife people, or, you know, I just started putting names together with faces that weren't people I was necessarily seeing in movies or television or, you know, in bigger
real
culture,
tastemakers
you know,
in a way.
like real, John Lurie and, you know, just interesting figures, like what's happening at this club and, you know, this band and these people. She was photographing all of them. And so I think subconsciously, you know, Friends from New York, it started initially. I thought I was going to open a store. I was living overseas and I was going to sell my friends' art. I was living in Berlin. Yeah. So I thought I was going to open a store, call it Friends from New York, and sell my friends' art. And so that's where the name came from. But I think that then when I started building this Instagram that's very nostalgia driven about 80s, 90s, you know, 80s New York, 70s New York, a lot of it came from having worked for Roxanne Lowett and learning her archive. And so understanding downtown culture, the pop culture of New York's downtown. And so that's where that aspect of the Instagram account talking about sort of New York and these little pockets of people that, have made their mark,
Right,
and so that's where that came from. And then, I sat on the name for a very long time. And then I was in Los Angeles there, working as a photographer for a long stint for a company. And I was confused about community there. I was like, where is everybody?
Yeah.
What's
in
everybody
LA,
doing in Los Angeles?
Yeah.
And my friend's like, I don't, and he was DJing. I was like, I think I want to start a party. He's like, cool, yeah, talk to our other friend who used to live, who's from New York, who lives in LA now. And I was like, I want to do a party. I'm going to call it Friends from New York. And he was like, talk to Julie, I was like, okay. And so she's a New Yorker that lives in LA. And so I was like, let's do this party. I called it Friends from New York, and like 300 plus people showed up, and I was like, whoa. And they were predominantly this like expat community
Very
of
cool.
like mad New Yorkers that live in Los Angeles for that lifestyle or for whatever. They live in LA, and they came out. And so all these people came, and we're like, wow. And that was really interesting. And talk about how New York can translate everywhere. I think, it's like if I started Friends from Los Angeles here in New York as a party, I don't think anyone would have given a shit, or like, I don't know. Yeah. So that's what happened there.
So you had this party, and then you realized you're onto something.
Well, then I started doing parties there, and friends came out, and then I felt like I had community, and so I was like, cool, and then, I do remember, growing up in the city, and my crew of friends, we threw a lot of parties in New York, and I come from a sect of people that were sort of nightlifers and people that threw pretty cool parties here that I've been part of growing up, and so it wasn't so strange that I did it, but a little strange. But I was like, okay, cool, And then I moved back to New York, and COVID hit, and that was really strange. And then I just kept thinking about Friends from New York and what that meant. And, Friends from New York is my place where I can big up my people. You know what I mean? Like, for me, I love promoting my friends. You want a graphic designer? You should know this friend. You need somebody to fix your car? You should know this friend of mine. You need a good chicken and waffles? You go to see this friend of mine. You need, a hat maker, a shoe maker, this. You want to make a movie? You want someone to do? I've got the person for you. You should know my friends. They're phenomenal.
That's cool.
And so for me, Friends from New York is this place where I can just big up the community of like, for some reason, I think my friends are the coolest. They're the most interesting, successful. They've done it, and they're interesting, and you should know them. And so that's what Friends from New York really started to become for me, of like, how can I talk about my people and celebrate them, and then get us to come together and go out and do something cool, And so there's merch, there's the parties, there's the there's newsletter. Right? Exactly.
Those are the three
and I've done
main...
some podcasts. I've done some interviews. And, a lot. The Substack is interview based.
Which is very cool, by the way. I mean,
thank you.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people don't read. A lot of people get confused of like, Heidi, you're a photographer or filmmaker. It's supposed to be video. And I'm just like, okay, but this is what I can handle. This is like where I'm at. I really like Substack in general. And if you can't read, then you're not going to read it. But if you want to read, it's not that long. Right. But if you're interested, here's an interesting person. And, so that's given me this way to sort of talk to my community. And then, the parties, what I recognized was happening because of my age group is, well, there's this push and pull of like, we have families now. We don't go out. We Netflix and chill. We're too old. Partying's for young people, blah, blah, blah. But I got people to come out, and they remembered, like, fun is fun and dancing is cool and whatever. And so we were this sort of, prominent age group in this thing. But what was happening was I've also got friends who now have kids that are old enough that are also super cool, and they go out. And their parents are cool. And so they brought them to the party. And then I was like, oh, this is interesting. And then, of course, the party grew. And obviously you can't do parties and grow something if you don't have the youth. Like, so obviously, of course, I have Gen Z and whatever, millennials and people coming to the parties that aren't just 40 years old and over. And so it's very intergenerational. And that I think there's something interesting there with millennials and Gen Z of like, they're interested in us. My friends and us, we created the culture. We've created the $1 billion system of Supreme. I know those people.
Right,
you know what I mean? Like, and that's making so much money and is so much, and we started that just by hanging out and going skating and doing, hanging out at this store and my friend making T-shirts. And so I think there's a level of the youth is interested in that too.
Because they think there's something they can learn from?
I think they're just interested. They want to know what goes on. And so I think there's a level of like, at our party specifically, that it's almost this like passing of the baton of like, this is the coolest person that ever went to anything, and they're in a room with you now, and you're here, and like they think you're cool, and let's talk, or let's just vibe, or let's vibe over this song that's playing. Right. And then like, I made cool business dealings on dance floors in my upbringing a lot, and so I think, so the party is very intergenerational, and I love that too. Of that's like, great, it's like, our age group comes out. It's kind of reunion feeling. It's a night you get the sitter. It's a night you go because you're going to see someone, or at least be in company of your contemporaries, and it's worth going out that night. You're going to have a night out. You'll go home and make out with your wife, and it was good. Like you did something. You got off the fucking couch and did something. Yeah. And then, obviously the party, young cats know about it too, and I think those people appreciate us. And so there's just this exchange that's happening on a dance floor, kind of.
And how many of those do you throw in a month, a year? How does it work?
I've been, kind of like every other month type of thing. And then, like anything, you get worried that something's going to die out. So you don't want to do something too much because then people move on. Right. But I think, in fact, that's not happening. I think what people are recognizing of like Friends from New York is something I want to do. I don't have enough opportunities to go and do things within nightlife, and when are you doing it again so I can come, And so it's stressful. I don't want to only have to throw big nightlife parties that start at 10. So, I've also adjusted, like we do some sunset or earlier hours, or I'm interested in smaller gatherings of like, let's do dinner parties and all talk about culture and, get these people together that can have this cultural exchange. And I have a breakfast club. I have people coming together to just shoot the shit. And
where do you do all of that? You just you have standard locations?
I do. I've been in one location, and sadly they're closing. And so, but what's crazy is I've wanted my breakfast club to be at my friend's restaurant, but he had been so new and not up and ready to be open for breakfast. Yeah. So, but it all worked out. So I'm moving my breakfast club, but it's been on the Lower East Side, and it's a time. It's a great exercise to sit down with a stranger and talk to someone that you don't know.
Absolutely.
And then also something cool can come of it. I mean, you're not supposed to be directly pitching things about, what do you do and what are we doing and what am I getting out of this? You're supposed to just come together and talk about culture, talk about what's on your mind, talk about whatever you're in the process of.
So what do you want to see? What's the next evolution? What do you want to see it become? Do you have a vision of, 5 years from now? Because what I think is very interesting about it is, to me, it's the anecdote, which is the one that's...
I'm not great at that word.
Anecdote is a story.
Anecdote. Yeah.
What's the thing? What's the elixir? Anecdote.
Oh, it's like the medicine to something?
Mm-hmm. Sorry, I'm going to come off as super unintelligent.
No, it's fine.
Whatever that word is.
Yes, that word.
It's the remedy to the problem we were talking about before. So it really plays, I think, I feel the same way about that cafe. Like, it plays a purpose in society.
It does.
Do you think about that, and what do you think about it becoming? And what's your...
Oh, it's so exciting. And so many things are becoming. Yeah. And the full circle, the win-win is what I just got to do. So I just photographed the... Q4 campaign for this company called Caddis. They're an eyeglass wear company, and they wanted to do a collaboration with Friends from New York. And so I photographed my friends in Caddis interviewed them as these interesting New York creatives. So sort of got to do what I do best, which is like photograph people and then big up my friends and put them on this platform. And then it's going to get put out to the world. And so that's like the 360, that's the cherry on top for me of what makes me happy, of like, hire me to do what I'm great at, which is photograph people, and then bring my friends into the fold.
Who are the coolest people you're going to find.
And I'm going to show you these awesome people, and then we're going to collab with this brand and have this offering, that's awesome. A limited edition glasses or an event or something like that. So that encapsulates like the awesomeness of what I can do as one person. But I think, and that campaign stood for community, and the founder, Tim Parr, was really like wanting to talk about IRL, this sort of like what that term is, this in real life, which I guess came to be during COVID, or I don't know where this initial thing came up. Well, I think
it happened because people started meeting more on the apps and stuff. And so if you say we met IRL, it's like, whoa.
Right. Yeah, and like what a fucking stupid saying, too. Like,
But you could see that you have to make that distinction. Like, we actually met through a conversation.
IRL. It's so dumb. But so, right, like, how do we break those walls down of like, it's not crazy to meet up in real life, people. Right. Like,
but it's really it takes important. A certain amount of, like, you got to come over the inertia because everything is about staying home and standing still. It's not about, and you're finding that with the parties, like,
right.
It takes something to get up off the couch.
Oh my God. And that like that your device makes you feel as though you know what's up with your friends. Right, so you're not even going to check in with your fucking people because you saw they were on this trip and they did there and he got his new, shoot, like whatever, because you're documenting everything on social media, so you feel like you've checked in with your friend and you know what's happening, so you're fine. Right. And that I think, the phone is the detriment to mankind in that way of like, you are just a fucking slave to that dumb ass phone.
Well, I love what you just said, that which I hadn't really thought about, I think is super true, that because you feel you know what's happening in your friend's life, on social media, which is none of it is true anyway, you feel like you know what's happening with them. And that's substituted like, I've checked in with them. Yeah. Because I've seen their post. That's a really good insight.
Yeah. And so then, we don't know what the word is. The antidote? The antidote?
Anecdote?
What is
anecdote.
It, Chris? What's the word? Antidote. The remedy is for us to have these in real life gatherings, right? Yeah. The art of gathering, like I think that really interests
And AI will
people.
never replace that. It'll never replace a cup of coffee. It'll never replace the value of gathering.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that we're super out of practice. Yeah. And like you said, like we don't know how to do it. We're so uncomfortable. And to see, my age group feel that way is one thing, but to see the kids really not have a clue of like what you're supposed to do to get together and like hang out is frightening, And so for me, what I want Friends from New York to become is, I want to make a mark on New York culture. I want to facilitate community meetings, community gatherings for the sake of fun and good times and camaraderie and friendship, and do that on big and small scales, and so, get DJs I grew up with that I still love or admire and have them do something where I can see them for myself and mix them with the new hot young kid who's coming up who's only heard of that DJ but doesn't know them per se, and like let's kind of all have a time.
I got to ask you about DJs. Yeah. Because I want to do a DJ thing here and I don't know where to find them. Now I know. I got to ask you about that.
I know a lot of DJs.
Okay, good.
And then the smaller ones of like the Breakfast Club or a dinner series or, let's come together to solve problems or like what's happening in New York in the neighborhood. What do you want? What's, how can we come together in person? I think that's a really important aspect of Friends from New York and what I want to keep pushing of being a place to be this sort of village voice for people, and it's hard because I'm one person and I'm trying to understand how do I get people to tell me what's going on? So, I have a WhatsApp group with like a few hundred people on it. And the purpose of it is for us, you tell me when you have that gallery opening. Tell me when you have something at your coffee shop. Tell these people. They'll show up. It's something to go do, And so...
Is that a public thing or that's just for your own internal stuff?
It's for our community. Yeah. And so, I'm building that infrastructure to have, maybe tiers of it. Yeah. Like maybe those are the founding members of the Friends from New York, community, and that those are certain people that think, but that you should be able to know, and that like, how can I get people to kind of help me out, tell me what's going on, and I'll put it in this place. There used to be the Village Voice. We would pick it up on Wednesdays, and you'd look in the back and be like, I'm going to show up to CBGB's. I don't know who television is, but they're playing tonight. What's that? And I'm going to go, And so how can we hear about what's happening? I also really love championing Manhattan. Manhattan in particular is just this special island that I love so much, and I think is really lost a lot of its creativeness. It's all in Brooklyn. You have to live in Bushwick. You have to be out there to party and create and, be amongst cool people. And
so
that freaks me out. I'm like, damn, like Manhattan used to be where it's at. Like we're near like Area Club was here in Tribeca, and like just so, you could do that. You could, right? We're near the Soho of the 70s loft of like, I lived there, or I like saw the sign on something that said AIR, AIR, and that, do you know what that used to stand for? That it was artist in residence.
Oh, nice.
And so that building in Tribeca, in Soho, was a building that you could live in to be an artist in residence, right? Cool. And so like, that still exists. You'll see them on some of the old buildings of like that building in prime Soho, $25,000 a month now is like where some artists lived and painted.
Well, this whole neighborhood was that.
This whole neighborhood was
squatters,
that.
Because of the light and
Of course. And, so I love to champion Manhattan and try to find those creatives and talk to them, those people building stuff. Obviously, New York City is huge. I love all 5 boroughs. I want to talk to people from anywhere in New York, and I want to talk to people from anywhere in the world, and that aspect's happening as well. Like obviously I still do parties in Los Angeles. I've been able to do parties in Miami.
Travel for those?
Yeah.
You travel, So you travel a lot?
I do. I mean, we had a great party in Miami for Basel. I called it the 6th borough because there's so many New Yorkers down there as well. And, I think like Friends from New York can translate anywhere in the world, but then also as a company, Friends from, plug in the place or the city can also happen.
Sure.
We can have friends from Chicago or friends from, I'm was in talks to do something for Friends from Nashville,
I don't even
an event there.
That though, meaning like it's fun when we designed our brand, we specifically said we're Manhattan and not Brooklyn. For that very reason. Like there's, and I agree with you, there's something about Manhattan. We're not the mason jar, we're Manhattan. There's an aspirational thing.
Yeah.
There's a dream come true thing. There's almost a timelessness of it.
Yeah.
So it's funny when you say, and I feel like Friends in New York, even if it was in Nashville, it would still translate because it's what I call stoop culture. It's like what happens outside the cafe. People sit on this loading dock from all over the world. That togetherness is universal.
Of course.
So it's interesting whether or not you even need Friends from Nashville. Like, if I was in Nashville, I get it. Friends from New York is still me.
Yes.
I get what you're doing,
Totally. Thank you. I think that is true. And it would be Friends from New York, presenting something, Friends from Nashville or whatever. Right. But yeah, this idea that, there is a way to sort of almost package up like a circus where, like, we've created so much interesting culture. How can I like pop it open and put it somewhere else and like you can vibe out and feel that? And that's in like, what we screen on the walls and the people that are there and the DJ that's playing and, maybe if there's different like art books or things, like trying to understand or like who were, those artists that we're promoting and stuff. Like, I think there is a way to sort of package up Friends from New York and drop it into places and open up and be like, it's New York vibes, and I'm in Tokyo, and you can do that anywhere. So, that part's cool. But, excuse me, that's the event aspect. So, there's like 4 pillars to Friends from New York, and they're, the events is the strongest and how I started. And then it's funny because it's like, so I created a community and now I'm backing into becoming a brand, right? And so, and I think
do you enjoy that?
Not the traditional way to go about it,
Right.
It's not what you do.
It's the better way, and it's probably the more authentic way.
It is, and we'll see, and hopefully those people will be excited to buy merchandise as I get that created, and that's been a real conundrum for me on figuring out how to offer merchandise. Yeah. My mentality was like, I don't want to make more shit. There's just so much crap in the world, especially with fashion, everything's thrown away. So that made me hesitant for a while. And then, I just have been in this, like, trying to figure out how to do it. And I think I've solved the problem. And there's this new AI technology. And they have offices in Chelsea Piers, and they're called Resonance. And essentially, they'll let me create one-off pieces, and I can show to the customer. If they order it, it gets made, but there's no waste. I don't have to make 100 of them, and I don't have to save money
or
to do it. And
demand?
It's like print on demand, but it lets me create head to toe garments of any kind in any way, and printed, but only done in this very sustainable.
Very cool.
There's no waste. And so I'm really excited. It looks like we're signing on, and I'm going to be, creating that aspect of the brand. But, the storytelling is what I care about and what I come from and what I want to continue. The events are really important and meaningful on smaller and bigger scales. So like the breakfast, the dinners, the bigger dance parties, and those big dance parties will be more seasonal, one a season. And then the merchandise. Yeah, the merchandise is a huge aspect of like, who are our different customers? Who am I dressing? And there's like a pride of being from New York and wearing something like that. And then there's the utilitarian aspect of like what I come from. I'm a woman that works in production. I'm used to lifting big, heavy things. Then I'm going to a gallery. Then I'm going to a dinner. Then I'm going to this, and I'm never home. And like, how do you dress for that? And that person.
Oh, that's cool.
And so like thinking about that person, or
it's not just like a T-shirt. You actually have an idea of a lifestyle almost.
Of just pieces of like, how do New Yorkers dress? What you said, your armor, what is that? And many times you don't get to go home, and you've gone from day into night. And that Friends from New York, the brand merchandise aspect is a lot about that. Of like, cool. I don't get to go home, but I'm going from day to night. And how do I look cute and chic and interesting and city and all of that, and be able to go from the subway and into something and just keep it moving, So developing that, and that's been fun and stressful. And, this solopreneurship that I'm in is really stressful.
It sounds like you're enjoying it, which is awesome. And I think that's why it resonates with people, and that's really the most important thing with the owner. Their love of it actually comes through, and it's authentic. But it is a new thing. Has that been a big mind shift for you? Has it been a challenge, a learning curve?
It's been really hard for me. It's like I'm totally out of my depth. I've only ever disappointed myself choosing the career I chose. A photographer, you either get the job and you got it, or you didn't get it and you only failed yourself, And so for me, trying to start a business where like I do want people, I want to be able to pay people to help them help me and be down with this company. And how do you do that has been really challenging for me. And
are there people
really
that work for you now, or is it just you?
No, it's just
still
myself.
Just you. But the idea of growing it and be able to be a place where people can work at and love it.
Yes, absolutely. I want Friends from New York to grow and become my full time endeavor, and that there's people helping me, whether that's like creating the digital magazine for it, or like sourcing that information to be plugged in for people to know to come to friendsfromnewyork.com to hear about events and what's going on and where to go and what's happening, and or to design stuff with me, or to make a huge film festival or music festival or anything that's like Friends from New York can really highlight anything. It's an incredible combination of words, so there's a lot of things I can do. But yes, it's been super hard to decide to start a brand, and maybe that's the Gen X aspect of like self-doubt, self-deprecating, keeping yourself small that the youth beautifully doesn't have.
Is that a Gen X thing?
I don't know. But I definitely feel like the young kids are down to be like, yo, I'm an entrepreneur. Yo, I got all these followers. Yo,
don't know what it's like
pay
to work.
me. Yo, exactly. I've been doing this for 5 minutes. I'm huge. Pay me. Be big. You know, and they just are so
entitled.
Like I'm like, wow, like I wish I could believe some of my own bullshit and be that confident because I'd be hugely successful.
I have the same thing. Like I wish I could believe it more. Yeah.
And so I think the youth definitely has some of that of like no rules, walls broken, can do it this way, that way, this way. Something takes, and they're making tons of money. And you ask the youth, they're like, I want to be a YouTuber. I want to be an influencer. I want to be these things. And you're like, what are
because
you
they don't really know
about?
What's involved in it.
But looking at it is interesting because, like, if you make it and you can be very young and do that. And there was no path or rule. And I think we're the leftover generation of like, there was a path. You know, I want to be a big photographer. Great. You work for a photographer. Right. You assist them. You assist on set. You move shit around. You do this. You slowly meet that photographer, those clients. And one day they'll hire you. And you'll do it. But for now, you're just the fucking assistant. And you're just like slave driving and assisting and learning and moving and shoving
I think there's still
things.
a value to that, though.
And I don't think that there's that. You know, now like some young girl can have a huge Nike campaign or whatever, and she's been doing it for a year. But somebody likes her at Nike and she's doing it. And like there was a real like path of like, you're not going to be a huge photographer till your 40s. Like, just forget it. Like, just move the fans, move the shit, move the lights, do the stuff, and follow the path of how to do things. And the youth eradicated a path. There's anything's possible. And so that's really cool. There's a good and bad to it. And I think it breeds a lot of confidence of like, I'm going to go do this. And I did it. And look, here's my platform. I'm really big and I have all this money now. And so I would like to feel that. And so, you know, in my roundabout way, it has been very challenging for me and a lot of growth and a lot of excitement for this next chapter of like my daughter leaving where I can really concentrate and build this thing. And just, how do you believe in yourself? Like, how do you find that strength?
I was going to ask you. So you were reading Alan Watts before, right? We spoke about that a bit. So changing gears, but using that to jump off of. So how do you find them? I mean, what is the things you do to stay grounded? How does somebody, whatever Alan Watts represents to you, that world, you know, you said you're a spiritual person, you know, you must bring that into your life. I think the question you ask is, how do you find that belief? Do you have things you do or things you've learned to help with it?
I think that, like, you know, I've ebbed and flowed in and out of checking into that, and that it gets harder and harder as the, like, things you have to do to get through your day and the technology and the things coming at you. It's like, where do you find the time to stop and sit and be, you know? For me, turning to like spirituality and stuff was to sort of reconcile my very tumultuous upbringing. And so, you know, for me, like reading Alan Watts and stuff is to help remind me that's over. You know, my past is over, and that still debilitates me at 50. And that's fucking crazy. That like whatever happened to me and broke me at 7, 8, 9, 10 and is running my life now. And I turn to spirituality to sort of help ground me of like, how do you let that go? That's totally gone. That was a memory that you hold on to that dictates your present and how you see the future, and how can I rewire and reevaluate and bring better positive messaging into my day-to-day to function at a higher level for the things that I do want.
And do you have moments of that?
I do, but it's like how can I find good habits? What are those things that I should be doing? And I think that that's a lifelong search, and some people tend to it better, but you know, self-care has been difficult for me, and yet also I understand how it's going to save me and make me the best me. And so it's one of the beauties about getting older, of having self-awareness, having an understanding of what's driving what you do and how you get in your own way. And so for me, turning to these books or listening to affirmations or listening to the different teachers that have helped me is to kind of check back in, slow down, breathe, and come into the present, and that's all there is. And that there's never again that time. And yet those things run how I run my life, and that's my work. That's my life's work. And trying to check into my self-awareness and my gratitude and the teachers that are there that say it so clearly. You got to do that. You got to stay on that. The Tony Robbins and the Alan Watts and Ram Dass and, Louise Hay, like those people, I turn to them, they help me. But I think you turn to things when you're in crisis and having hard times. And I would like to just cultivate some good habits. And I try. And you you ebb and flow, and we're humans, right? We just do the best we can. But, I think recognizing that, every day is a new chance to build and do, and have something good. And I definitely have my best habit is when I hit my head on the pillow, I'll do a 3 to 5, what were the 3 good things that happened today? Yeah. Really simple stuff.
A gratitude
this guy got me a coffee. This this
right.
is something. I did a podcast today. How do you go to sleep at night and remember 3 to 5 good things, and have that gratitude moment of shit was okay. It was okay. Because you can just sit in the misery all the time, you know. So that's maybe my best habit.
I love it. That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's a good one. It's been helpful of let's just try to remember what happened today. It's just it doesn't have to all come at you. You can participate and reflect and see. And then it's also over, and it'll never be again.
Well, I love that. I love how you describe how the past can have a hold on us and the need to let it go and be present. I mean, it's a new moment. And the cool thing I like about what I do, the cafe, the entrepreneur, even these conversations, and I get the sense from what you do is you're almost forced to be in the moment all the time to build something, which is a great way to work,
Yeah, I think that's what everything with Alan Watts is just coming back to constantly. But I think that we're all on our paths and we all struggle, and, it's so in secret sometimes, and sometimes
it shouldn't be in secret.
It shouldn't be in secret, and I think that's one of the last things I'll say that's cool about the youth is they're more open to talk about what's happening to them, and yet at the same time they're not. They're closed off or scared, or they don't know what to be or what to do. But I think trying to open up and be vulnerable is really important.
Yeah. Excellent. I love it. This was so much fun. Thank you, Heidi. It was great.
It was great, David.